A bright Saturday morning stretched over Maplewood Park, where parents gathered with strollers, coffee cups, and lively toddlers who darted across the playground like sparks. The air smelled of fresh grass and sunscreen, laughter mixed with squeaky swings and tiny sneakers thumping on wood chips. Nia Johnson, 27, sat on a bench near the sandbox, reading through a folder of notes. She wore a soft cardigan, neatly tied curls, and glasses balanced on her nose. Calm, observant, warm. A few children played nearby, drawn to her quiet steadiness. She wasn't working today, technically, but watching children had never been work for her. It was a language she spoke naturally. Across the playground, Dana Whitford, a white mother in a designer tracksuit, tugged her son along while speaking loudly into her phone. Dana was known for two things: organizing neighborhood events and making sure everyone knew she did. When she noticed Nia, something sharp flickered in her eyes, curiosity with an edge. She approached. "Excuse me," she said, voice sugary in the way sugar sometimes hides vinegar. "Are you the babysitter for those kids?" Nia looked up, blinking once. The children nearby weren't hers, just kids who had wandered over to build sandcastles near someone who paid attention to them, as children tend to do. "I'm not anyone's babysitter today," Nia answered kindly. "Just here enjoying the park." Dana's smile tightened. "Well, you just look very comfortable around kids. If you're offering cheap babysitting, I know several families who could use the help. Most of the nannies in this neighborhood are supposed to follow our parenting standards. It's important they know their place in the structure of things." There it was, not loud, but clear. A jolt of assumption dropped between them like a stone. Nia closed her folder gently. "I'm not offering babysitting services," she said smoothly, "but thank you." Dana waved her hand, as if dismissing a misunderstanding she didn't care to understand. "No need to be proud about it," she insisted with a chuckle that wasn't a laugh. "It's honest work. You shouldn't be embarrassed. I mean, obviously you're not in education or anything like that." Nia breathed in through her nose. Slow, steady. Not angry, just aware. "I actually am," she said. Dana blinked. "You're a teacher?" "Something like that," Nia replied, offering no defense, no resume, no explanation. She didn't need to. Before Dana could react, a voice boomed across the playground. "Everyone! Quick announcement before we start the preschool open house tour!" Parents looked up. Strollers paused. The air shifted. The speaker, a board member from the Maplewood Early Learning Center, stood near the picnic tables. "As you know, we are welcoming our new preschool director today. She'll be overseeing staff, curriculum, community engagement, everything that keeps this place thriving. Please give your attention to," he gestured toward the bench, "Director Nia Johnson." The entire playground turned. Kids looked up from the sandbox. Parents straightened. Dana's face drained of color so fast it was almost audible. Nia stood calm and grounded, the folder she had been reviewing now clearly official materials for the preschool's upcoming year. She walked toward the group, not fast, not dramatic, just steady and sure. The children followed her naturally. Dana did not move. A mother beside her whispered, wide-eyed, "She wrote the new curriculum I told you about." Another murmured, "She has a master's in early childhood development." Dana stared. The babysitter she had spoken down to was the woman who now led the entire school her son would attend. And her voice, normally sharp and loud and full of opinions, was suddenly gone. Nia turned briefly, meeting her eyes, not with a smirk, but with a calm so clear it felt like truth held up to light. "Now," she said gently to the group, "shall we begin?" The parents gathered. Children took hands. The tour moved forward, and Dana stood exactly where she was, holding the weight of her own assumptions. The group followed Nia toward the preschool building across from the park, a cheerful brick structure trimmed with colorful murals. Sunlight bounced off windows, painted with tiny handprints. It felt warm, welcoming, intentional. Parents clustered into small knots, whispering, "That's her? She looks so young. She published that article on play-based learning. My sister's school uses her sensory curriculum. She spoke at the state conference last year." Each sentence was soft, but full of respect. Nia walked with her usual quiet confidence, her folder tucked neatly under her arm. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't gesture dramatically. She didn't need to do any of that. She simply belonged. Dana trailed behind, her steps stiff, her son tugging at her sleeve, wanting to run to the sandbox again. But Dana was too busy trying to gather herself, to reconstruct her expression into something that didn't resemble shock. At the entrance, the board member held the door open. "After you, Director Johnson." The title landed gently in the air. Nia offered a small nod of gratitude and stepped inside. The hallway was filled with children's art, bright suns, smiling stick families, collages made of buttons and magazine scraps. Parents smiled instinctively. It felt like a place that held children instead of merely containing them. Nia paused at the first classroom. "This will be the 3- and 4-year-old group. Our philosophy here is guided independence. Children learn best when they feel trusted and supported, not directed into performance." Parents leaned in, listening closely. "We focus on emotional development first," she continued. "If a child feels safe to express themselves, they will feel safe to learn." A father nodded thoughtfully. A mother wiped her eye. Dana stared at Nia, realizing, perhaps for the first time, that there is a difference between watching children and understanding them. They moved into the outdoor learning space next. Raised garden beds, a mud kitchen, a shaded storytelling circle made of smooth wooden stumps. "This space encourages sensory exploration," Nia explained. "Children learn science, cooperation, patience, and curiosity out here. It's not about mess, it's about discovery." The children on the tour were already drawn to it, touching leaves, stacking stones, giggling as they stirred imaginary soup in a tin pot of sand and water. One little girl tugged lightly on Nia's sweater. "Miss Nia, can you read the mushroom story today?" Nia smiled, wide and genuine. "Of course I can." The child didn't hesitate. She knew Nia, trusted her, loved her. Dana watched, hands twisting the strap of her handbag. Finally, she stepped forward. "Director Johnson," Dana began, trying to stitch her voice back into something polished. I didn't realize." Nia looked at her. Not unkindly, not kindly, just fully present. And that alone was enough to make words crumble. Dana swallowed hard. "I spoke to you earlier in a way that doesn't reflect who I want to be. I'm sorry." The group went still, not waiting for drama, waiting for truth. Nia's expression softened, not into forgiveness, but into something real. "We all learn," she said simply. "The important part is what we do after we realize we were wrong. No shame, no punishment. Just accountability with an open door." Dana nodded, eyes stinging, not from humiliation, but from recognition. The tour continued, and parents followed Nia again, all of them quietly aware that leadership had already been demonstrated. Not in a speech, not in a title, not in authority, but in grace held firmly with boundaries intact. The final stop of the tour was the preschool's community room, a bright space with low shelves, beanbag seats, and artwork displayed at child height, not adult height. Nia believed children should see themselves reflected in the world around them, not look up at it like something distant. Parents took seats in a loose circle. Some children sat on their laps. Others wandered happily between them. The space felt gentle, like an exhale. Nia stood in the center, not towering, not commanding, just present. "Thank you all for taking the time to be here today," she began, voice calm and warm. "My goal as director is simple: to make this a place where children feel safe, respected, and excited to learn. That starts with how we treat one another." Her eyes moved around the circle, not to call attention to anyone, but to include everyone. "In this community, every caregiver matters. Parents, grandparents, guardians, teachers, aides, volunteers." She paused. "And babysitters and nannies, who in many families provide the emotional foundation children grow from." Dana felt that line land directly on her chest. Nia continued, not lingering, not pushing, just speaking the truth with steady clarity. "No one is just anything here. Children learn dignity by watching how we treat those around us." A few parents nodded. One murmured, "Yes," under their breath. Nia set her folder on a small round table. We'll have open office hours every Thursday morning. If you ever have concerns about your child, the curriculum, or our approach, I want you to come talk to me directly. We'll solve things together. There was a quiet shift among the group, not excitement, but trust beginning to form. A father raised his hand. How can we support the school's goals at home? Nia smiled. Model curiosity. Show your children that learning is something adults do too. The room softened into smiles. And then Dana, hands clasped too tightly, posture pulled inward, finally spoke. If I may, she began, voice smaller than it had been at the park. Every parent turned. I misjudged you earlier today, she admitted without excuses. Not because of what you said, but because of what I assumed. I spoke down to you, and I'm ashamed of that. My son learns from everything I do, and I don't want him to learn that. The room went completely still, not uncomfortable, just attentive. Nia held Dana's gaze, not to make her squirm, but to let her finish. Dana continued, I'll do better. I want my son to learn kindness, not categories. Nia nodded once, measured, thoughtful. Thank you for acknowledging that, she said. Change starts with awareness. If you mean what you say, your child will see it. Dana breathed out, relief and humility woven together. It was not forgiveness that mattered here. It was responsibility. The room shifted again, not toward tension, but toward community forming. Slowly, honestly, with room for everyone to grow into it. Nia returned to her folder and clapped her hands lightly. Now, who wants to go see the sensory play garden again? Children cheered, parents laughed, and just like that, life moved forward. Not perfectly, but differently. The weeks that followed unfolded softly, like pages turning without effort. The preschool opened under Nia's direction, and slowly, the community began to shift around her. Not because she demanded change, not because she lectured, but because she modeled something steadier than rules. Respect without hierarchy. Kids ran through the hallways with paint on their hands, joy on their faces. Teachers worked with new confidence, encouraged to be creative rather than controlled. Parents showed up not just to drop off, but to participate, to talk, to learn. And Dana, who once stood above others without realizing she was standing on them, began to change too. Not quickly, not dramatically, but consistently. One day she arrived early for pickup, not frantic, not rushing, just present. Her son Eli was sitting with Nia at the craft table, gluing colored feathers to a cardboard crown. Look, Mommy, Eli said, waving his creation proudly. I'm making a bird king. Dana laughed, really laughed, and knelt beside him. It's beautiful. Then she looked at Nia. The gratitude in her expression was quiet, earned. Thank you, she said. Not for the crown, not for the craft, but for helping her see. Nia smiled gently. He has a wonderful imagination. Dana hesitated, then spoke softly. I want to help with the garden cleanup this Saturday, if that's okay. Nia nodded, warmth in her eyes. I'd like that. No dramatic reconciliation, no tearful embrace, just a shift, a healthier one. On Saturday, parents gathered in the preschool garden. Kids dug in soil, planting marigolds and basil seedlings. Nia knelt beside them, hands dirty, laughing when a toddler proudly presented her with a worm. Dana worked beside her, hair pulled back, dirt smudged on her cheek. She listened more than she spoke, absorbing instead of asserting. At one point, she paused and looked around, at the children cooperating, at the parents sharing tools, at the gentle way Nia guided without pushing. This place feels different now, she said quietly. Nia looked up from tying a tomato vine to its support. It feels like home, she replied. Dana nodded, eyes soft. And this time, she didn't question it. She simply helped it grow. The afternoon sun dipped lower, bathing the playground in warm, honeyed light. Parents packed up slowly, reluctant to break the peaceful spell of togetherness. Nia stood near the garden gate as families said goodbye. Eli gave her a sticky, glitter-covered hug before running to catch his mother. Dana lingered a moment. She didn't apologize again. She didn't need to. She simply said, "I see you now, and I'm glad my son gets to learn from you." Nia smiled, not victorious, not forgiving in a way that erased what happened, just real. "Thank you." Dana walked away holding Eli's small hand. Nia stayed behind, hands resting lightly on the garden fence. The sun felt warm, the air felt whole, and she knew. You don't have to fight loudly to change a community. Sometimes, you just have to lead quietly and let people catch up. Autumn came gently to Maplewood. Cool mornings, warm afternoons, and the smell of fallen leaves drifting through open windows. The preschool settled into its rhythm. Children arrived with backpacks full of crayons and tiny treasures from their walks. Teachers greeted them by name. Laughter echoed through the halls like music. Nia sat in her office one morning, window open, the sound of children playing outside drifting in. She was reviewing a new family enrollment form when a small knock sounded on the doorframe. It was Eli, crowned Bird King as always. He held a paper in his hand, folded crookedly, edges smudged with paint. "For you," he said simply. Nia smiled and took it. Inside was a drawing, bright swirling colors, 3 stick figures, Eli, his mom, and Nia, all holding hands in front of the school. Nia's chest warmed. She knelt to eye level. "Thank you," she said. "This is very special." Eli beamed, then ran back to the sensory table, leaving flecks of glitter in his wake. A moment later, Dana stepped into the doorway. No makeup today, no posture like armor. Just a mother. "I didn't know he was making that," she said softly. "It's beautiful," Nia replied. Dana nodded, eyes tracing the crayon lines, the colors, the simplicity of a child's truth. "I want to say something," Dana said. Not rushed, not rehearsed, just real. The day at the park, I spoke from a place I didn't even know I was still carrying. It came out of habit, assumptions, and I never want my son to inherit that. Her voice stayed steady, though her breath shook. "Nia, you didn't just change this school, you changed us." Nia didn't offer absolution. She didn't need to. She simply answered with the same clarity she always carried. "We're all still learning. That's the important part." Dana's eyes softened. Not with relief, with understanding. She nodded once, then again, then left quietly to join Eli at the play table, where they began building something together, block by careful block. Outside, the garden had grown full, marigolds blooming, basil thick and green, tomato vines looping over their stakes like small, proud achievements. Children ran between the beds, hands sticky with sun and joy. Nia stepped outside to join them, the drawing tucked safely into her pocket. She didn't need recognition. She didn't need apology. She didn't need victory. She had roots here, not because she demanded space, but because she made space. For children, for parents, for growth, for change. Leadership wasn't loud. It was something you could feel, like steady hands, like open doors, like soil that welcomes seeds. And the seeds had taken root. The playground echoed with laughter. The garden shimmered in the light, and Nia stood there, not above the community, but with it, exactly where she was meant to be.